To the soul, earnest or devoted, Shri Krishna says, attains to peace the soul, earnest and devoted, attains to peace well founded by abandoning attachment to the fruits of works. But he whose soul is not in union with divine is impelled by desire and is attached to the fruit of action and is therefore bound. This verse describes what happens to a person who performs works for the purification of his or her soul. The fruits of works should be given to the Supreme Soul. A person who has abandoned attachment to the fruits of works immediately attains peace, it says here. All turbulences, which is the opposite of peace, arise as a result of attachment to the fruits of works, because while the fruits of works come, there is turbulence. One thinks about whether they'll get the fruit today, tomorrow, or later. It looms over the mind. Leave it and say that you do not want it, because it is already decided that you will get it. Depending on your merits and your determination, you will get it. By saying it is decided, I do not mean that one should leave everything to fate. Depending on the efforts you have made, and depending on not whether you are eligible, and eligibility arises as a result of efforts, you will get it. Why then have such great desires and such great wishes? Why create such attachments? In the end, you have to be satisfied with whatever you get, so why not be satisfied with what you have now? In the Panchatantra, there is a very beautiful story. I love this story. A fox left early in the morning in the jungle. It was very hungry and thought it would need a lot of food to satisfy its hunger. At that moment, the fox saw its own shadow. The sun was rising, and those who lived in the countryside will know that its rays were coming from the side when the sun was rising. Therefore, the fox's shadow looked very long. You may not have seen, but your own shadow looks very, very long in the morning. It's unfortunate that people living in big cities can't see their shadows, because if a person can see a shadow, they can get a lot of knowledge. The fox saw its shadow and became very knowledgeable. Think about it when there was the last time you saw your own shadow. You'd be lucky if you got to see your shadow. Otherwise, you won't even think about this. The fox saw its shadow lengthened by the sun's rays, and it thought about how big it was. It then thought about how hungry it was. It thought that only an elephant could satisfy its hunger, and nothing less than an elephant would do. This fox went looking for an elephant. How can a fox kill an elephant? He kept searching and searching, and half a day went like this. The sun came on top of him, and the fox was hungry, thirsty, and tired from all the walking. It could not find an elephant at all, and it put its head down. Because the sun was now directly above it at sunset, the fox's shadow became extremely small. The fox thought, "Is this all I am?" It thought that now, even if it found a mouse, then it would do. In the morning, the fox went looking for an elephant, and now later, in the evening, even a mouse would do. These beautiful stories in the Panchatantra that Vishnu Gupta have written are all about people. He has written stories after studying human psychology. He has written stories on crows, foxes and lions, but in fact the stories relating to us. At the beginning of one's life, a person thinks that there's no one like him, and as a result he wants to do this and that. He resolves that he'll be something big, and nothing else would work for him apart from that. He will not accept anything below this dignity. This is how he thinks. He wants to create a business empire and start a factory after a factory. He keeps thinking like this because at the beginning he sees his long shadow. But when he gets to the ages of 35, 40 or 45, apologies if anyone's at that age, and understands life a bit more, then he may be thinking that working as a typist for the government on a few £100s a month would be enough for him. He would not want anything more than this. The attachment left when he was age 45, but this understanding does not come to someone who's 20 years old. It does not come to someone who's 25 years old. I even have to say it should come to someone who is 5 years old. If it came to Dhruv and Prahlad, not me, the person in the scriptures, then how can it come to Chaganlal and Maganlal and Kachalal? Because what is important is that understanding. Yet it does not come because one's concentration in life is somewhere else. It does not know where he has to go and search for something, and also when he reaches. That reminds me of a children's nursery rhyme. Pussycat, pussycat, where had you been? I went to London to look at the Queen. Pussycat, pussycat, what did you do there? I looked at the mouse below the chair. The story of the pussycat is a story of all our lives. Where did the pussycat go? It went to London to look at the Queen, which will become difficult in a few weeks when the Olympics are on. But it came back, what did it come back having done? It just looked at the mouse and came back. It had such a long journey for what? The individual soul is the pussycat. This is you, I, and all of us. If we get asked where we have come, we'll just say that we've just come into this life. The real reason why we're coming to life is to look at the Queen. We have come here to attain the Supreme Soul. We have come here to attain God. But when you ask the pussycat what it did when it turns 80, then it said, I got married, had children, did business, and came back. If you do not want to have this life of a pussycat, then first the person must awaken. A person forgets the cause of the life and does not find this cause. I very much like this nursery rhyme. At the beginning of one's life, his cause is very big, but then he's unable to hold on to this great cause. He does not make efforts in order to attain this great cause. The person should rise up. The progressive idealism of the Gita is to make sure that one is steady in his cause and attains his cause, so he keeps moving forward at every step. If a person has not attained his cause, then how much can he move forward? A person should move forward with a goal in his mind, but in order the person that becomes smaller, his cause becomes. The older the person becomes, the smaller that his goal becomes. His expectation keeps decreasing when it should be increasing in the field of spirituality. A devoted soul offers all the fruits, it says here, of work to the Supreme Soul, and therefore attains to peace well-founded. But a soul, it says here, who is not in union with the divine, gets bound by desire because he is attached to the fruits of works. One should be free from this attachment. The more attachment that one has, the more bondages they have. Shri Krishna is trying to say here that on the path of desireless works, a person's attachments reduce over time, and by himself he becomes a man or she becomes a woman of renunciation. Okay, there are 4 fruits of actions. In the 3rd and 4th chapters of the Gita, we gave a lot of descriptions of karmas, such as prarabdha karma, kriyaman karma, sanchit karma, nitya karma, naimitya karma. We also gave descriptions of akarma, karma, akarma, vikarma in a lot of detail. You can see them in the videos for chapter 3. Here, we will now go through the fruits of karmas. Our scriptures say there are 4 types of fruits of karmas. Who knows what they are? Okay, there's 4 fruits of karmas. Drashta, adrashta, prapta, aprapta. Drashta, adrashta, prapta, and aprapta. Let us now try to understand them. Drashta fruits of actions are those when we do something in the present and get the fruits immediately. We do the actions in the present and get the fruits immediately. Here, the actions are in the present and the fruits are also in the present. If you are hungry and then eat, then the hunger would immediately go away. You perform the actions of eating and then the consequence came straight away and you got peace. If you are thirsty and you drink water, then you got peace of mind and the thirst would go away. You must remember that there are no actions that don't have fruits. Just like Newton's rule of action and reaction, the Gita has a principle that one will get the fruit according to the action, the karma. The action is a person and the fruit is a shadow. The fruit is going to come. You cannot say that you do not want the fruit. Even if you don't want the fruit, it will come. If you do not want it, then it's up to you to decide this. But there is no action without fruit. This is very straightforward. Tatra tatra dhuvaha tatra tatra vaniyi. Meaning wherever there are actions, then the fruits will come. The fruits out there will come immediately. If one is walking down the road and the footsteps on the dog's tail, then because that action has happened, the dog will bite that person and the fruit will come immediately. This is the drashta fruit of karmas. The second type of fruit of karma is adrashta. Here, what happens is that the action is in the present, but the fruit of it does not come immediately. The fruit is stored in an account and will come to the person later. If I were to explain it in a simple language or in business language, then the drashta fruit is a current account and the adrashta fruit is a savings account. It's some cases an Icelandic savings account, but you get your money back because it's guaranteed. When the fruits come, but it takes a while. In the current account, you can withdraw your money immediately, but in the savings account, there's a rule. For example, you can only withdraw certain money every 6 months, and you can't withdraw more than that. Therefore, the adrashta fruit is stored. The fruit can come to you at any time. If you want to understand it spiritually, then drashta fruits and adrashta fruits are linked to kriya karma, which I won't elaborate on too much because we discussed it in the 3rd chapter of the Gita, and the videos are up. The adrashta fruit of action comes in the future, even though the action is performed in the present. And it can come in many ways. For example, a certain type of body, wealth, fortunate circumstances. Then, 3rd, comes prapta fruits of karmas. This is when we had performed the actions in the past, either in this life or in the previous life, yet we're getting the fruits of those actions today, of those karmas today. Examples of this include that the body we have, whether it be beautiful or ugly, whether it be dark or white, or whether we're born in India or abroad, the type of family we have, the people that surround us. We do not have a choice in any of these things. All of these are the prapta fruits of karmas. Guruji often says as a joke that there are many things in life when we don't have a choice, in particular our relations. We have absolutely no choice over our blood relations and those closest to us. We have to accept whoever comes into our lives. When we are born, then this entire set is ready for us. 2 paternal uncles, 2 maternal uncles, 2 paternal aunts, 2 maternal aunts, etc. This whole set is ready for us. Do we have a choice? Some people say that they do not want the paternal uncles that they have. This will not work. When you are born, you had those relations. There is no escape. We have no choice. We have to look at after this set for 25 or so years, and then one gets married, then they get a spouse, but then there's also another set of relatives. 4 uncles-in-law, 4 aunts-in-law, etc. Is there a choice in this? There is no choice at all. If you do not like your aunt-in-law, then it won't work, because you have the uncle-in-law, you will have to have the aunt-in-law. There is no choice. What I'm trying to say here is that we have no choice in our blood relations. Our scriptures say that they are the prapta fruits of karmas. Understand that if there is a circumstance when we don't like it, it's because of our karmas, our past actions, that they've come to us. If we have a bad uncle, someone, and they have, if we have a bad uncle to someone, then there'll be a bad uncle to us in the future life. We will have done something in the past life because of which the circumstances we are in today. The karmas were performed in the past, and the fruits of karmas come in the present. The 4th type of fruits of karmas are aprapta. What do these mean? Come on, take a guess. Here the karmas were performed in the past, and the fruits of the karmas are still in a fixed deposit account. The fruits have not yet been withdrawn from the account because they are not ready to come out. When they become ready, then the circumstances, people, fortune that come into our lives will be determined. So to summarize it in a table, 4 types of fruits of karmas. First column, which will be the names of the fruits of karmas. Second column, the time of the action or the karma. Third column is the time when the fruits come. So first type is drashta, the fruit. The action was performed in the present, is performed in the present. The fruits will come in the present. Second, adrashta, the karma action is performed in the present. The fruits will come in the future. Third type of fruit is prapta. The karmas were performed in the past and the fruits come in the present. And aprapta, the karmas were performed in the past and the fruits will come in the future. Without these 4 types of fruits, no circumstances can arise. This verse says a yogi gives up all 4 of these types of fruits. How can this happen? How can we give up each fruit of action? With drashta fruits, which are you perform the actions in the present, get the fruits in the present, you should have no insistency on them, and when the fruits come, then you should have the attitude described in chapter 12 of the Gita, harsha, marsha, vayod, begavani, mukta, meaning do not get too excited or too upset when the fruits of karmas come. Only then can a person become free from drashta fruits. One should have no insistency on drashta fruits. There is only one way to become free from adrashta fruits, which are actions you performed in the present where the fruits will come in the future, is that you should have no wish for them. When you are performing actions in the present, then you should have no wish for their fruits coming in the future, and if you do this, then no bondages will arise. Only then will you have successfully given them up. On the majority of occasions, we perform actions in the present and get the fruits in the future. The majority of people are playing in adrashta fruits. The majority of people have expectation that if they do something in the present, then the fruit of it will come in the future. I find it very strange when I read advertisements of this sort. For example, give us your money and in 25 years we'll make you rich in the future. This aims to give a second chance to those who failed the first time. They say that they'll make you rich in 25 years, but who knows what will happen when one will wake up tomorrow. How can we then give our money like this to someone for 25 years? The majority of people are playing in such adrashta fruits. In order to be free from them, you should not have a wish for them. In order to be free from prapta fruits, where the actions were in the past and the fruits in the future, you should have no sense of mindness. You may get circumstances because of what you did in the past, but not only should you get rid of the minus, but you should not get happy or unhappy because of them. Only then can one become free from prapta fruits. If you have good relations with someone, for example a friend, then understand it's because of the good deeds that you must have done in the past, either in this life or a past life, but you should have no minus in this. When you have a sense of minus, then the fruits come in the future. In the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavat, there's a famous story of Jadbharat. Who knows this story? Jadbharat was a son of an incarnation of God. He performed good deeds throughout his entire life, but he got the fruit of his karma that while praying to the sun towards the end of his life, one morning a baby deer came into his hands. He saved it, and he was a good person, did good deeds throughout his entire life, but he held on to that deer because of its sense of minus. The consequence of this, he was born as a deer because he was thinking about a deer in his last moments, and his liberation was delayed by 2 births. He got liberation 2 births later. You should not have this sense of minus. Finally, in order to be free from aprapta fruits, you should have, which are karmas you performed in the past and which the fruits will come in the future, is that you should have no desires, and at the same time you should not be dissatisfied with what you have in the present. One only has a desire for aprapta fruits in the future when they feel that there's something lacking in their present lives. If one is unhappy in the present, then they have a wish for something in the future and they'll think that one day they'll be happy. This happiness will only happen when the karmas arise, fruits arise, letting them happen. One is sitting there with a lot of desires in their minds. The aprapta fruit will come in the future, but a person creates bondages by thinking about these future fruits in the present. Instead of this, one should accept and be satisfied with what they have in their current situation so that the bondages to aprapta fruits go away. One should accept the present. One will become free by himself. Live in today. There was a very great thinker in Russia. Who's heard of Ruskin? Very great thinker in Russia. He would always have a word written on his paperweight, and it said today. Someone asked Ruskin what the meaning of this was. Ruskin replied, I always live in today. Today's day is the most important, one day at a time. What happens is that the majority of people are thinking about the past or having expectations of the future, so that today and the present are completely forgotten. Looking to London, talking to Tokyo, but they're not looking at what's in front of them. This is the situation we're in, and what happens is that we cannot change the past, and no horses can carry us to gain what we expect to have in the future, because the fruits of action happen because of what? Efforts and merits. They arise as a result of karmas. These karmas can only be performed in the present. Yet we occupy the present on having expectations for the future, so that the future is running in the present as well. The past has slipped from our hands, and the future has not come into our hands. One loses what is in his hands for something that is not in his hands. A thinker said it very nicely, and Guruji likes this very much, that the past is a history, the future is a mystery, but the only thing we have is only the present. This is very important. It's a gift from God to us, and hence it's called a present. I'll read it again. The past is a history, the future is a mystery, but the only thing we have is a present. It's very important. It's a gift from God to us, and hence it's called a present. You must make use of it so that you become free from the bondages of aprapta fruits of actions. When one is free from all the fruits of actions, i.e. drashta, adrashta, prapta and aprapta, then it says here, they attain to peace well-founded. Everyone has experienced that the more they let go of desires and the sense of mindness towards the material world, then the more peace they get. The way we are as is, why do we get peace? When we go to sleep at night for 7 to 9 hours, then that's the time we're absolutely at peace. Many people say that they spend the whole day running around and therefore they have no idea where the whole day went. They hit their bed at 9, 10 or 11 o'clock and they can relax. They have that peace for 7 hours. How did they get that peace? What would they do for the whole day? They chased after things for the whole day. For those 7 hours at night, or 7 hours, they let go of things, peoples and thoughts they held on to. They let go, and that's why they got peace of mind. But as soon as they wake up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, then they go back to chasing after things. Then this disquietness begins again. Where did this peace come from? It came from letting go of the things they chased. Where did the disquiet come from? It came from holding on to the things they chased, be it objects, people, or thoughts. The more a person lets go of the world in spiritual language, then such a person becomes alienated with the relations in the material world. Western philosophers call this alienation. One must know about alienation. The more you become free, then the more peace you will have. The first thing is that all unhappiness comes from as a result of making efforts to chase after happiness. Where does unhappiness come from? Punit Maharaj said in very simple language that a person becomes unhappy in order to be happy. He thinks that if he gets something, then he'll be happy. He thinks that if he gets a certain amount of something, then he'll be happy. In these very efforts, a person becomes unhappy. There is peace in letting go of things. There is one difficulty in this, that when we leave something, then we leave it unconsciously. The scriptures say that we get real bliss if we let go of things consciously rather than unconsciously. Only then can we attain to peace well-founded, as said in this verse. This reminds Guruji of a very small event a long time ago. He was going on a train from the town of Mumbai to Vadodara in Gujarat, and he had a friend with him. The train came to Mumbai Central Station, and they went and they found their compartment. They found their beds, and they began making their preparations in order to go to sleep. The friend that was with him asked him whether he'll be able to go to sleep. He said yes, he'll definitely be able to go to sleep. He told him to wake him up at 6 a.m. in the morning when they reached Vadodara, otherwise he will just remain asleep. The friend asked Guruji why he can get sleep on the train, and he replied that the deepest sleep he gets is on a train because it feels like he's sleeping on a horse carriage. His friend asked him how he'll be able to sleep on the train because normally his friend wasn't getting much sleep on the train. Guruji asked him why it's so, and he said that he was worried that someone might steal their luggage. There you are. Why are you blaming the train? You are worried about the luggage. Guruji told him that the reason why he can sleep on the train is because he has no worries about the luggage, because all he carries with him are 3 pairs of clothes and 3 books. If someone takes his books, then the taker will be able to read the books. If someone takes his clothes, then someone will be able to wear his clothes. He has no worry about the luggage, and that's why he gets good sleep. Guruji asked his friend whether he was able to sleep in his house, and he said he's able to do so. Guruji asked him why, and he says that he has no worry about the possessions in his house. He said he could take his watch off before going to sleep and put it on a side table before going to bed. He'd wake up in the morning with his eyes closed, and yet the watch will still come into his hands. He has this assurance, and that's why he takes it off before going to sleep. If there's a wedding going on and someone takes a lot of items from a locker to store in the house, then they won't get any sleep. They'll stay awake. All worries are because of possessions. The more possessions one has, then the less sleep they will get. The less possessions they have, then the more sleep they will get. The people that are light travelers get the most sleep. Just like in traveling, those who travel light in life are the happiest. They only keep the things that they need. The more they gather, then the more worries they have. We only do one thing. We fill up bags and bags of possessions, and we do not get any happiness out of them. All the time is spent in gathering them, and the pleasure in the journey is lost. Those who travel light in the journey of life attain to peace well-founded. How can one let go of these things? There are 4 ways of doing so. The first is that we can let go of these things unconsciously, because we have to let go of them. We only let go of them when we're forced to do so. There comes a state when we do not want to let go of them, but we have to. How long will we be able to go without sleeping? Imagine if I have a very expensive watch and I give it to you to look after, saying that I'll come back after an hour. You're sitting there for 1 hour with the responsibility of looking after the watch, but if I do not come for hours and hours and it becomes nightfall, you start yawning and you've had a very tiring day. You don't get sleep because the watch is very expensive and it's in your hands. I have given you the watch to look after, and you may have good feelings towards me, but when it turns 11 o'clock at night, then you forget everything and think about that I'm far away, yet you're staying up at night thinking about the expensive Rolex watch. You put the watch to one side and go to sleep. You have let go of it. There are 4 ways of letting go of relations to the material world. You obviously let go of things when we're unconscious, which is the first way. We let go of things, but we also let go of the material world as well as objects. By material world, I would mean the circumstances created by objects, peoples, and thoughts that you surround yourself with. This is the material world. In the Marathi language, anyone here Marathi? There's a very beautiful word. It says prapanch. In Gujarati, prapanch means worldly concerns, but in Marathi, prapanch means the material world. If you listen to the speeches of Marathi saints, then the word prapanch comes up over and over again. They talk about forgetting prapanch. How can we forget prapanch? How can we forget the material world? It goes away in a state of deep sleep, but what happens then is that our relation with the body and the material world goes away, because at that time the mind is unconscious. This state is like death. The mind is not there, the body is not there, and the material world is not there. All 3 of them go away. If you were to explain it in simple language, then in those 7 or 8 hours during sleep, we do not exist. If we're in deep sleep and someone hits us with a foot or says something about us, does it affect us? Absolutely not. We don't even know whether someone is saying something bad about us. We do not even know if someone is praising us. We do not even exist. But when we're awake and someone comes next to us saying something bad about us, then how much does it hurt? If we're in a state of deep sleep, then someone tells us how beautiful we are, how great we are, how there's nobody like us, then it does not make a difference to us. But if we're awake and someone comes up to us and says that we're beautiful, we're great, and there's nobody like us, especially if they're a girl, then they blush. We have this feeling in our mind that we want them to continue talking like this. We ask them to carry on talking. Why did this happen? Because we are awake. When we're in a state of deep sleep, then all 3 of the body, the mind, and the material world all go away. This is the second way to let go of things in the material world. It's a state of unconsciousness. The second way is when we are dreaming. This is a state between being awake and being in deep sleep. In this, the body is dormant and the shop of the body has been shut down, but the mind is still running. The mind is still connected with the material world in a state of dreaming. The body may be anywhere, even resting on the bed, but the mind has reached somewhere, be it Chennai, Calcutta, or Birmingham, or somewhere else. While one is dreaming, the mind will have a relation with the material world, but the body has broken this relation. That's the dream state. The third way is when we're awake. There's a lot of turmoil and turbulence in this. The shop, that's the body, is open and running. The machine of the mind is still running and awake, in the awake state, and there's not peace and the material world in front of us. There's so many things running in awake state that there's no peace even for a moment. The more things we let go of, then the more peace we get. In an awake state, when we have the body and the mind running and the material world in front of us, there's turbulence. In a dreaming state, when we have the body asleep, then there's a little peace, but the mind and the material world are still there. In a state of deep sleep, the body is gone, the mind is gone, and as a consequence, the material world too has gone. That is why we get peace. The scriptures say that there can also be a state where a person is awake and yet they've still completely let go of the material world. It is possible to attain this state after many efforts. What does one call this state? Nobody can even find a name for the state. That is why the scriptures call this state the Turi Avastha. Means the fourth way. Turi Avastha, the fourth way. The meaning of the word Turi is the fourth. There is no name for it. There is a name for each of the other states. The awake state, the dreaming state, the state of deep sleep. There is no name for the fourth way, but it is such a way where one is awake, yet they're in deep sleep. A thinker said it very nicely, that this fourth way is like putting the mind in neutral gear. When a car is running and it's on the driving gear, you put your feet on the accelerator, it starts running. It can only stop when either you turn it off or when you park it while keeping the engine running. This is when the car is in a steady state, but the engine is in driving gear. However, there is also a state where a car is on, yet the engine is on neutral gear. This is the fourth way. This is a state of being awake, yet not having the mind running around everywhere. Such a person can attain peace well-founded. The bliss that is there in deep sleep when one lets go of the material world can be obtained by many people when they're awake. Our scriptures warn us when it's stated that there's peace in letting go of things, that many people give up things, yet they're still running around everywhere. A person who's renounced everything can still have the material world connected deep in their mind, which leads to them having their mind running up everywhere. This is worth thinking about in detail. Imagine that I like sweets very much and I get so lost in eating them that I realize the mistake I was making. I therefore give up the sweets and I say that I will not eat them ever again. If I say that I don't want them, then I'll get one type of peace. That's the peace of letting go of them. But every time they come up in front of me, then I will have to push them away. I'll have to remember that I liked them 10 years ago and I have given them up. This is a matter of push and pull. There will be a tension there. The people that have given up something that they like will have experienced this. There are very few good people that have done this because the majority of us cannot give up things we like. When people go to make offerings to their ancestors, their priests tell them to leave something which their ancestors like. These people think about the things they don't like. If they do not like pears, then they'll give up pears for their ancestors. People are so clever. You not find anyone as clever as these people. When they give up something, then they always give up the things that they do not like. When a pear comes in front of them, then they'll say that they do not like that pear. But when someone lets go of that thing, then that thing that they like always stays there in their minds. There's always, therefore, a negative involvement in them. Such people give up the material world, yet their minds are still deep in the material world. Their involvement just keeps increasing rather than decreasing. Their efforts in giving up something one likes is much bigger than chasing after something one is attracted to. Example, Kachalal's, our favorite character, Kachalal's friend came to his house. His friend was called Dayalal. He'd come out from town and they went to various places as Kachalal's daughter was getting married, and therefore they had to give out invitations to various people. The coat that Dayalal had was not right, and there had been some damage to this from travelling. He had bought a second coat from the wedding, and he did not have much time. Kachalal told him not to worry, because he'll give him another coat, because of the fact that he had many other coats. Kachalal gave him a coat that matched his trousers. He began walking, and on the road, Kachalal thinks in his mind that he's given his nicest coat to Dayalal in a hurry. The consequence was such that Dayalal looked much better than Kachalal, because Dayalal was wearing an expensive coat, whereas Kachalal was wearing simple clothes. Dayalal's coat was sparkling. Such things often come to people's minds. The thought kept coming to his mind over and over again. When they went to the first family, and Kachalal introduced Dayalal to everyone as his childhood friend, he said that this is my childhood friend, there's someone that's running a successful business. He made it known to everyone that he's running a successful business, but that coat is mine. When Dayalal heard this, and he was shocked and thought to himself, what kind of manners is this? When he went to give the wedding invitation to the family and left, as soon as they went to the car, Dayalal took off the coat and gave it to Kachalal, saying, you can keep your coat. You're introducing me to everyone in such a nice way and telling them that this coat is yours. You've therefore ruined the introduction that you've given to me. How can you say this to people? Kachalal apologized for his mistake and said that he would not do this again. They went to another house, and the thought still ran in Kachalal's mind. He introduced Dayalal to everyone. This is my childhood friend, someone that's running a successful factory. As soon as he went to the coat, he said, that coat is not worth talking about at all. Dayalal was once again offended, and as soon as they got out of the house, then Dayalal asked him why he kept saying this. Kachal told him that he did not know what was happening, but he promised not to do this again. The more things you try to give up by clenching your fist, then the more you have to hold on to it with that much strength. This is the characteristic of the mind. They went to the third family's house, and Kachalal introduced Dayalal to everyone again as his childhood friend, and there was someone that's running a successful factory, and as soon as he mentioned the coat, he suddenly fell silent and made a noise. The more one tries to leave something, then the more it comes back. This is exactly what happens in someone's life. Many people believe things in the material world, thinking that it will give them peace, but what is the meaning of mentioning that coat and then suddenly falling silent and making a noise? A person who leaves things in the material world is still stuck in them like this. It goes far away from peace well founded and stays far away from it. Another word used in the Gita to describe peace well founded is the supreme peace. The phrase is used 2 or 3 times in the Gita, the supreme peace. Such a person goes far away from such a peace. Do not become so involved in leaving the material world that you get far away from this peace. There is therefore only one way. Do not have an attraction for the material world, but also do not have a repulsion to it. Material things are in one place, and use them as much as they're needed to move forward. After that, a person can attain to peace well founded. Do not get pulled towards or pushed from anything. That brings us to the end of the class. We've got